Jason Robards, take one. Action.
Okay, should I start? The exciting thing about Jason was, after he had agreed to do Iceman Cometh, he was only getting $40 a week. And I saw him on Greenwich Avenue, and I said, I've never really was crazy about that play anyway. So I saw him on Jason Avenue, I said, Jason, I think that's wonderful of you to take this role, and you're getting so little money. He said, what do you mean? It's a great role. And he stopped on Greenwich Avenue, and for a half hour he recited the whole monologue, and I was utterly transfixed. I had no idea the play was so marvelous. And then when I went to see him do it, he wasn't as good as he was that day on the street corner. He was absolutely just unforgettable. And of course he had a great success in Iceman, and it made him a star. And then I was at the opening night of Long Day's Journey and Night, on Broadway, when he played The Son with Frederick March and Florence Eldridge. And it was just one of these great evenings. And I had standing room, and I remember I took out a peppermint to put it in my mouth, and Maureen Stapleton came over to me and said, can I have one of those things? And I said, sure. And she said, I wish I could do something for you. She must have been drunk or something. Anyway, I saw Jason Robards several times after, and of course, he had this great success, but he was always very jealous of Geraldine Page. That kind of surprised me. And he knew I loved Geraldine Page, so whenever I'd see him on the street, he would say something negative about her, like, oh, Geraldine Page was finished at the box office, or stuff like that. He was jealous of her, I don't know why. But of course, he had a great, great career, and unfortunately he died, and it's finished. But I remember him well. I don't know what else to say about him. Well, when I knew James Dean, this was long before his films, and he was cast as an Arab boy in The Immoralist by Andre Gide. And what happened was, I was a young guy and an actor, and I applied for one of those roles too. There were 3 Arab boys. Little did I know that James Dean was going to play the lead one. Anyway, when I applied, I was a young guy, and I was an actor in Summer and Smoke, and I got an interview with the director, Herman Shumlin, and he said to me, I'm sorry, I don't think you're right for either one of these roles. So I said, well, could I be an observer in the production? He said, sure. So I was an observer with no money. Well, it turns out this was one of James Dean's first roles, and I was shocked how brilliant he was. It was a very small role, but Jesus, he took command of that stage like nobody I've ever seen. And there was one point as an Arab boy where he would sit down and eat some meat from a plate, and there were no props. And he ate that meat like I've never seen anybody. And as he put each morsel of meat into his mouth, I could almost feel what he was eating, like it was beef or it was chicken. He chewed that stuff with such belief, and he had no props. I thought, that is talent. That is a special genius. I saw it right away. Anyway, it turns out that he took an awful lot of attention from the director, and some of the actors, like John Hildebrand, played a small role and resented it. And once we were in the men's room, and James Dean was taking a leak at the urinal, and John Hildebrand was behind him and said, Jimmy, you're not the star of the show, and I wish you would remember that and stop taking up so much time of the director's time, because you're not the star of the show. Well, anyway, every day I would go for lunch with him at the 6th Avenue Deli, which was across the street, with Geraldine Page and Louis Jourdan. And when he would go across the street, he would run across the street and fall in front of taxi cabs on his knees as a joke. He would run in front of a taxi cab and throw himself on his knees in front of a taxi, and the taxi cab would screech, halt, And the guy would lean out the window and say, "You son of a bitch." And Jimmy Dean would pop up and go, "Ha ha ha," like that, and go on. Anyway, just to show you how much Geraldine Page loved me, we were sitting having lunch one day, and she went on how great I was in Summer and Smoke, playing a very tiny role that was very meaningful to that, and I was very good the day that I did it. And I never did it again with her because I knew I couldn't repeat it. I just was fantastic. And she never got over it. And she told Jimmy Dean and Louis Jourdan how good I was in Summer and Smoke, and they listened. So anyway, Louis Jourdan, James Dean and I sort of became buddies. And one day he came over to me and said, "Alvin, can you hear me okay when I speak?" I said, "Sure." Well, anyway, then I got to tell you this great story. After The Immoralist opened, it was only a supporting role, and then he did another play by Richard Nash or something. And one day, I was sitting in a coffee shop in Greenwich Village with a young girl, and he drove up in a motorcycle, and he stopped, and he came into the coffee shop where I was sitting, and he sat down next to me, and I've got a kick of it, and he tried to pick up this girl who was my date or my friend, and she wasn't in the slightest bit interested. She didn't know he was going to become a big star. She didn't know who the hell he was. So she didn't pay much attention to him. And he said to her, "Well, where do you live?" And she said, "Well, I live in Philadelphia." He said, "I'm going to be there in a couple of weeks in a play. Can I call you?" She said, "Sure." And she gave him her number. Well, when he got to Philadelphia, he called her, and she wasn't interested in going out with him. And then, years later, after he did the 3 movies and it was a big star, I ran into this girl in Greenwich Village, and she said to me, "Alvin, do you believe what I'm telling you? James Dean called me for a date, and I turned him down." The Pocket Watch ran for 2 years, and some people came to see it 2 and 3 times. They loved it, and we had a wonderful production. And you're not going to believe what I'm telling you. It ran for 725 performances, and I saw every one of those performances. I sat in the back every night, and I was in it for a year. I witnessed every one of those 725 performances. This is incredible. And Laurie Noto, who did The Fantastics, came to see it. And he said to me, "Alvin, you've got a wonderful production here. It deserves to be a success. And I'm going to tell you how to make it a success." And I said, "Well, what should I do?" He said, "Listen to me. You put a thing in the New York Post that it's sold to the movies, and everybody's going to run to see it." And I said, "Are you serious?" He says, "Yeah. Tell a little lie, put it in the newspaper," and that's what we did. And from that moment on, it became a success. We started to do big business. I listened to him, and he helped me. This is incredible. What more should I tell? Well, the story, it's about my family. It's the story of my family, and also I imitated Long Day's Journey into Night because O'Neill wrote Long Day's Journey into Night in 2 or 3 acts, but it takes place the same day, a morning, lunch, and dinner. And I said, I'm going to do the same thing for my family, and it worked. The whole first act took place in 1 day, and it was quite moving, and it was a story about my grandmother and how I saved her life by giving her a pocket watch. She had an obsession about a pocket watch that she had pawned 20 years ago during the Depression. And she forgot about it because her memory was going. So I gave her another pocket watch to replace it, and she believed it. And she said, "Oh, Alvin, this pocket watch was for you. It was a gift to you to remember me." And so that's what the play was about. And it's about my father and mother fighting over dollars and the business, and my aunt and her husband, who we tried to put together, and we tried to find somebody to to marry my spinster aunt. We found somebody, and it worked. And that's what the play was about. It was about helping my aunt and uncle get married, and it was all about the pocket watch. And that's what the play was about. And what else? And
Your mother.
And my mother was very resentful because the mother in the play acted badly. And there's the famous line in the play where the mother says to a friend on the telephone, "I want to die when I'm 60. And if I don't, I want somebody to take a gun and shoot me. I don't want to be dependent on anybody." And I used that line in the play. My mother said that. "I want to die when I'm 60. And if I'm not, I want somebody to take me out and shoot me. I don't want to be a burden on anybody." My mother said that, and I used that in the play. And so my mother felt badly when I used those lines again. She was in the audience to see it. But my mother was a great woman, just the same. A lovely, lovely, great woman.
Fantastic.
So that's what the play was about. This is a picture of Geraldine Page and Jason Wingreen's in Summer and Smoke Off-Broadway when I first began my acting career in Broadway. But this was the big thing. It took me years and years to write this play. This is the pocket watch. That's Miriam Elias, who played the grandmother, and that's me as a young man in the pocket watch. And it ran for 2 years, and it was a great, great experience. And we followed it with another play, which unfortunately didn't go, and we made some terrible mistakes. We did it non-equity, and we picketed by the union, and that forced us to close. But that's the pocket watch. And I had 2 great years, and this is a woman who played my mother, and she was in Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway, Sylvia Mann. Oh, fantastic lady. And that's me and Sylvia in the pocket watch, see? Oh, God. And this is me as a young man in front of my house in Roxbury, Mass. But that was the beginning of the play. Oh, my God. And this is a picture of me when I was first starting out at Circle and Square as a young actor, smoking. Oh, God. And this is another picture of the pocket watch with another cast. And this is a picture of me as a young man in Circle and Square. And this were the 3 producers for Circle and Square, Bill Yellen and his brother Irving and me. And we had a fantastic time, fantastic. And I really didn't know that one day it would end, it would be all over. And it was just great. That's Peggy Elcar, who was married to Dana Elcar, and she was a famous actress as a young girl. And she had a lot of tragedy. She was divorced from Dana Elcar, but she and I acted together for a whole year, and it was a great, 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 great experience. Great. And the pocket watch ran for 2 years off-Broadway, and that's the director, Sherwood Arthur, and Miriam Elias, and Michael Gorin. And Jesus, we had a great time. We thought it was going to last forever, but it didn't. It was only 2 years, and it's over. Now it's just a memory. And it's a great memory, but it's gone, and I'll never get over it, you know. It was just fantastic.